There are some very interesting developments concerning the Mulembe nation and William Ruto. You see, last Saturday, a delegation of Luhya leaders assembled at State House and had a very lengthy meeting where many things were discussed, including getting grassroots support for the UDA party in the Mulembe nation. But some very interesting things emerged from this political development. The first thing I noticed, which I'm sure will really jazz you, was that there was a particular individual who just a few weeks ago, about 2-3 months ago, left the UDA party with a lot of drama. Remember a man called Seth Panyako, who is the Secretary General of the Nurses Union? He was there. So what happened? Nakwambia siasa. In fact, he told us he had received a call from Ruto telling him to leave the party. Okay? Now this is the same man back at State House, sitting in a meeting of what the UDA party is going to do amongst the Mulembe nation. Hey. The other thing that stuck out is that after this meeting, there are a lot of problems amongst the Luhya leaders. Now, for all the Kenyans who are there during the Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi presidency, you will know immediately that the person who leads the delegation is critical. And there are very many silent political messages just surrounding the person who led the delegation. Now on Saturday, the delegation was led by, wait for this one, Cleophas Shackles of Doom Malala, who of course is the Secretary General of UDA. What? I don't believe those words came out of my mouth. How things change. I don't believe that those words are actually factual. Malala of all people. Shackles of Doom man. Kweli dunia ni mviringo. Anyway, it was Malala who led the delegation. And then a man came out with both barrels of his gun firing non-stop. That man's name is the bullfighter Boni Khalwale, the senator of Kakamega. Khalwale did not mince his words. He said, the three factors in Luhya politics are Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and Boni Khalwale himself. Without those three leaders, there is nothing you can do in Western Kenya. There is nothing you can do amongst the Luhya. Now. Was this simply a case of sour grapes, for missing out on the State House goodies? You know, mandazi, mkate blue band, chai ambaye ni maziwa tupu, etc. And especially the chai. I'm sure you know what I'm driving at. So is it just a case of sour grapes? Or what is going on here? Yenyewe, why were Mudavadi, Wetangula, and Khalwale left out? Actually, the Luhyas are being used in a Machiavellian move. Bila kizungu mingi, we are back to Moi tactics and the Moi days. Now, Niccolo Machiavelli is the author of a very controversial, famous book written a long time ago, titled The Prince, which was basically advice on how to retain power by playing people against each other. That's really the perfect summary. Or how to retain power by perfectly understanding and using something called human nature. Now, Moi, the second president of Kenya, was an absolute guru at this tactic. When he noticed or he received intelligence reports that you are not exactly loyal, that una rega, to quote Kibaki, he would do something very simple. He would call your political rival to a meeting in State House, and he would make sure that that information leaked out and reached you. And of course it would have the desired effect. You'd start wondering, am I going to be dropped next week at the 1 o'clock news? What was the president doing with my political rival? I thought they're not talking. I thought they're not supposed to be talking. What was he doing in State House? Now, of course, in those circumstances, you can be sure that the next statement you issue supporting Kanu, Mama na Baba, will show your loyalty to the hilt. You're going to talk things, impossible things. Nothing, everything, yote pamoja. You're going to say anything to show your loyalty to the president. Bottom line, the president would have already brought you back in line without saying a single word to you. That was Moi. And clearly this is the game Ruto is playing now. Because surely, why not invite all those people supporting Kenya Kwanza from the Mulembe Nation and have the delegation led by the senior most Luhya in government at the moment, Musalia Mudavadi. And even if Mudavadi and Wetangula were unavailable, why leave out the bullfighter? Why leave out Bwana Khalwale? But actually, all that I've covered on this show so far is actually nothing compared to what I'm going to say next. The 2019 census told us that the House of Mumbi are about 8.1. You can see the exact figure on your screens. They have a population of about 8.1 million. The same census told us the Luhya number approximately 6.8 million. Now the difference between those figures is only a mere 1.3 million. Indeed, and I've said this on this channel many times before, there are many Kenyans who believe that the Luhya are the majority tribe in the nation called Kenya. Of course, this is very significant politically. Because you see, from the early 90s, during the second liberation, and especially after the country went back into multi-party democracy, the true numbers of tribes in Kenya, believe it or not, have been a state secret. People have even gone to court. How do you go to court to challenge census figures? You umesikia wapi? But it happens in Kenya. Of course, the reason why people go to court is because of resource allocation. If you have fewer people, less resources are allocated to your county. However, it seems that the central government has always been very concerned about tribal numbers with a view to a future rigged election. That is really what it is. And this is why there are many Kenyans who believe that the Luhya have the highest numbers in Kenya. And they also believe that the Luo population figures are downplayed, reduced. There are many people in the country who believe that for political reasons. And the evidence they give is compelling. Because they tell you, look at a Kikuyu family. Over the last couple of decades, 2-3 kids. Very rare to find a family in this part of Kenya with 10 or more children. Very rare over the last handful of decades. In the Mulembe Nation, wacha tu. Indeed, if you want numbers at your function, for whatever reason, just make sure you're working with 2 or 3 Luhyas. I kid you not. the place will be packed. And most of those people will turn up are his relatives or her relatives. Bottom line, Waluhya tuko wengi. Tuko wengi sana. Now with that information, it makes perfect sense why the Luhyas are always visiting State House and not the Ma community, for instance. Because politics is a game of numbers. And even other moves very early in the Ruto administration should also make perfect sense. Like the easing of the issuing of ID cards to Kenyan Somalis. Yeah, that is another community whose real population is a closely guarded state secret. Indeed, there are those political analysts who believe that if you have the Luhya, a vast majority of the Luhya voting for you, and the Somali community, you cannot lose the presidency. And right there is the Ruto strategy. Now, if you're keen, you'll already have a few troubling thoughts racing through your mind after this information I've given you. Number one, it should tell us clearly what Ruto thinks about the bipartisan talks and what he thinks would be the possible outcome. Because he's racing ahead with his plans for 2027. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but these actions enable us to read his mind and what he's thinking. And so if you belong to the handshake brigade, wewe baki hapo tu. Just stay there. Yeah, and let's see what happens. In my view, if I was to be very honest, I always get very uncomfortable talking about political strategy for 2027. I get terribly uncomfortable. Why? Because we are not yet through 2023. Yes, I appreciate we have only 3 months and a handful of days. Yes, I appreciate that. But we have not gotten through 2023, let alone 2024. And what is unfolding in the country politically would suggest that thinking about 2027 currently is a pipe dream. There are too many very serious issues pending in our country whose outcome is unpredictable, and whose outcome, even though it is unpredictable, would completely turn upside down any plans one would want to make for 2027, distant 2027, which currently looks like it's decades away. And if you're not fully convinced about what I'm saying, I'm going to recommend a video I did in 2019 on this Luhya census linked to the then Deputy President William Ruto. I'll put a link in the description area below, and I'll also repeat it for those who have gadgets that are able to see the end screen. I'll also repeat it at the top right hand corner at the end of this video. Please take that video in, and then you'll be totally convinced. You will understand that the Ruto romance with the Mulembe nation haikuanza jana, and you'll understand this strategy a little better. Actually, a lot better. You see, it is so sad that our country has been run on narratives. People are debating things which a lot of times are fake. They are false. For instance, these tribal numbers. Every time political analysts talk about these numbers, there are people in Kenya who don't believe them, who believe the numbers are different. And of course, if the numbers are different, the analysis, any political analysis, will be very different, because it has to reflect on the numbers of potential voters and total population numbers of tribes. Because our politics, unfortunately, is still tribal. It is changing, and changing very fast, but not fast enough. And many people don't realize how confusing things can be when you start debating narratives which are false. Because sooner or later you'll come across information which contradicts your very neat analysis, your very neat views, based on a narrative that has been manufactured. Like that narrative of tyranny of numbers, suggesting that if you have the house of Mumbi in the bag, maybe you're from that community and you're vying for the presidency, you have no option but to win. That is a very false, fake narrative. And I would highly recommend that you catch my book, Tyranny of False Narratives, which releases mind-blowing information of what is happening currently and of course what has happened in the past, even with narratives like that tyranny of numbers. And you'll also discover, and this is going to shock you, the narrative against the BBI, majority of it were the personal views of one Kenyan. But using this false narrative system, many even today still believe that there were many Kenyans against the BBI, that those views of an individual were the views of many Kenyans. It's not true. And we can see details on the screens right now. It is only $4.99 or Kenya shillings 499. If you want the audio version, then it is only 699 Kenya shillings or $6.99, and you get the entire package. I highly recommend it, because going forward, of course, our politics is going to get more and more confusing, thanks to all these fake narratives that continue to be churned out. Oh boy. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.